It's one of my favorite Motionless in White songs, period. What's up, my fellow headbangers? Oh, how I've missed you here on YouTube. It's been a crazy last month for me, and the hiatus I took from YouTube, I didn't intentionally take. I had a lot of things going on, and on top of all of that, I moved to a new home, so I was waiting to get internet. So being on YouTube just wasn't in the cards, but I'm glad to be back and talking about new heavy music today. Moving in and of itself is such a process. So for those of you that have stuck around this whole time while I have been absent, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I'm super glad that you're here today. And for those of you that are new here, welcome. I'm Courtney, aka the Versatile Virgo, and I'm an independent writer and photographer for my own metal lifestyle website, theversatilevirgo.com, where I focus on everything from new music suggestions to live shows, interviewing bands, and even things like musically inspired recipes. So if that's something that interests you, make sure to check it out. I've linked it in the description below. And just FYI, because I'm independent, this video isn't sponsored by anyone but me and my little Etsy shop. So if you want to help support what I do, which is spreading the word of good, heavy music, I've also linked that in the description for you to check it out. I have handmade tote bags that I make from official merch. I also have t-shirts and tank tops. This tank top in particular is also one of my t-shirt designs. The tank top isn't listed yet, but I'm hoping to have it listed in the next couple of days, so definitely check it out. I've also linked my personal Instagram and my shop Instagram in the description so you can keep up with those drops and things like that if you're interested. Moving on to what I'm here to talk to you all about today, which is the new Motionless in White album, Scoring the End of the World. Which, first, let me just mention, I love the cover art of this album. It already makes me want to listen to it and even maybe pick up a physical copy so I can display that cool artwork in my home somewhere. And before we go any further in this video, I just want to mention that for those of you that don't know me, I'm the type of metalhead that typically reaches for things like thrash and groove metal first. Those would be my two top subgenres of choice if we're classing things by subgenre. Then I'd go for some deathcore, sludge, and death metal. And of course, there's heavy metal and black metal sprinkled in throughout there too. Metalcore is not always my top genre of choice. I do like it, but it's just not what I immediately go for. And I'm also not super into things that are very electronic or have a very heavy electronic element. There are some things that I have featured on my New Music Monthly series over at theversatilevirgo.com, which is where you can vote for your favorite songs of the year and things like that. Yes, you are deciding my best songs of 2022 list, so make sure you cast your vote. But anyways, moral of the story, I've always kind of liked Motionless in White, but I've never actually sat down and fully listened to their albums, at least until recently. And that's because I was kind of interested in checking out the new album, Scoring the End of the World, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it. Although over the years, I will say I do have some Motionless in White songs that are favorites of mine. Again, just not the whole album in a sense, if that makes sense. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the album track by track. So yes, today I will be giving you my Metal Girl first impression of Motionless in White's new album, Scoring the End of the World. So the album itself clocks in just under 50 minutes, and it starts with the song Meltdown, which is kind of the musical equivalent to an energy drink. There's lots of tech elements on this song, but it's brutal. And it's definitely Motionless in White. When it comes to some of the vocals on this song, I wish they were more raw and didn't have so much electronic element added to them. Chris Motionless is an amazing vocalist. I mean, I think the guy could be on Broadway if he wanted to. I just think that he's that talented in general. Wait. Has Chris Motionless been on Broadway? Definitely think we need a goth metal musical. And this is coming from a former theater major. I know things. Anyways, so I just don't think his vocals need to be touched that much, if that makes sense. However, there is this really awesome pit-worthy breakdown in this song that is just vicious, and I love it. It gives me that kind of beastly heaviness I crave from a lot of the other stuff that I listen to. So while I normally wouldn't reach for this song as my first choice, I did still enjoy it. Sign of Life then comes in with a darker, more somber vibe. It's still energetic, but it starts off a bit more stripped back. This one I really like. It's kind of a cross between the first track and one of their older songs, Reincarnate, which is one of the songs that really got me into Motionless in White years ago. It's one of my favorite Motionless in White songs, period. And this song kind of gives me that vibe in the chorus. Werewolf is next, which is kind of sexy and sultry. I would consider this track more hard rock and electronic with maybe some pop elements than metal, but I still really like it. That says a lot because it's not something I would typically reach for. I can see this song being either huge on TikTok, or I can also see them putting out like a really cool Halloween style music video for this track that I think fans would be going crazy for. So there's my free idea, Motionless in White. Although they're probably already thinking it. Then there's Porcelain, which starts as this beautiful goth ballad, but then it immediately comes punching in with those heavy and electronic elements. Now, Slaughterhouse, which features Brian Garris of Knocked Loose, is a little bit more my speed. It's definitely one of the most brutal tracks on the album, and it has that old school Motionless in White viciousness that first attracted me to the band many moons ago. Remember on the first song when I said Chris's vocals really don't need that much production because he's an amazing vocalist? This song is a great example of all of the things he does so well. At least on this album. There's plenty of other examples of that throughout their discography, but on this album, I would say this is that song. Cleans and screams. Masterpiece then immediately changes pace from that with, again, a more somber feel. This song is kind of like middle of the road Motionless in White to me. Think of songs like Eternally Yours, for example. There's barely any electronic elements in this track, if at all, and it's just a great goth metal track. Cause of Death keeps that momentum going. But this one is much more high energy, and instead of that somber feel, it's more like a punch in the face, in a good way. This one also has slightly more of an electronic undertone than the prior track, but not like we heard in the earlier tracks on the album. Again, it's great goth metal and Motionless in White at its finest. It's extremely vicious, but with some of those clean melodies peppered in. We Become the Night is another great track on this album. It's catchy and dark and a little sultry. It's basically a goth anthem, which is something Motionless in White does very well. If you're into Marilyn Manson or bands like Ice Nine Kills, you'll definitely love this song. Burned at Both Ends too kind of goes back to what we heard on songs like Cause of Death. It's extremely heavy, yet somber and stripped back in some areas. There's clean vocals, there's harsh vocals. This is Motionless in White straight up. BFBTG Corpse Nation starts off with a very eerie intro before it just explodes. And it again explodes into that vicious side of Motionless in White that I just love. Again, if you like Ice Nine Kills, you at least have to check out this track. This is also probably one of the heavier tracks on the album, next to Slaughterhouse, of course. But it's like super heavy goth metal. It's probably my favorite track on the album, and it's the one that kind of went in a direction that I didn't expect it to go, at least based off of the short intro in the beginning. Cyberhex is another great pulse-pounding track with, as the name suggests, a very heavy electronic feel to it. I really like this one though. I liked it when they first released it as a single. It's part of why I wanted to check out this album. Lindsay Schoolcraft is also on this track doing backing vocals. And when I say this is electronic, it's still pretty metal. So it's not like the first track that kind of caught me off guard with how electronic it was, if that makes sense. Red White Boom is another great metal track. It's more of a traditional Motionless in White banger to me. This song is wildly heavy and will definitely have you banging your head. It's another one of my favorites on the album, and it reminds me of the Motionless in White song America, which is another one of my favorites, by the way. Plus, it features Caleb Shomo from Beartooth, a band I highly recommend checking out if you haven't. And on the counter side, if you're watching this and you like Beartooth, but you really haven't given Motionless in White a chance, this is a song you'll want to check out. Hi friends, it's me, Editing Virgo, and I just wanted to mention something must have happened with my camera whenever I was recording earlier, because for some reason I don't have what I wanted to say about the last track on the album, which is the title track. It features video game composer Mick Gordon, and basically all I wanted to say is it's the perfect way to end the album and everything that we just heard. So what did you think of the new Motionless in White album, Scoring the End of the World? Let me know in the comments section below, and also let me know what your favorite Motionless in White song is. By the way, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel because I have even more heavy music related videos on the way. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you have an awesome weekend, and most importantly, stay heavy.